Right. I think we're live.
We are live.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah.
That's not the voice, fam. That's not the voice that you did a second ago. That's not the voice. In the shadows.
In the shadows.
Welcome to 3 Beats Later.
We are live.
Yes. How y'all doing out there, party people? How y'all doing, fellas?
What up?
That's how you could tell he a DJ.
Party people.
Party people.
Ain't nobody at no parties right now, man.
We're partying in our minds, man. And then 3 Beats, we're gonna be partying online. You know what I mean? Partying on YouTube. How was everybody's week, man? I see you back home safely.
Yeah, all is well with me, man.
Yeah.
All is well. What about you?
Good, man. Summertime fun. Starting to kind of like get out there a little bit.
Yeah.
Barbecues. I just hit up a baby's 1-year-old party. Always good times.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
Cool
man.
Party.
I love how people have parties for babies that don't know they're having parties.
I'm about to have one of those. I'm about to throw one of those.
We'll be like, you know what? We're coming to Johnny's first birthday party. It's gonna be a blast. We're gonna have a bounce house and all. Johnny can't bounce. Johnny can't even walk. Like,
I'm taking offense to this because I'm throwing one of those. Come on, man.
Right?
you're probably gonna have a bounce house too.
Yep.
Ooh.
Well, the bounce house is essential, man. I think the bounce house is half for the adults anyway. You know, the adults want to crawl in there for 3 seconds and roll around and get back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Especially, right around 4 p.m. when the party starts getting live. Jump in the bounce house.
Dude,
Indeed.
I never understood like baby birthday parties, and it's like they spend lots of money on too. Like, yo, listen, sending invitations and stuff. Like, yo, really? Your child can't even talk.
I just for the record, E is hating on 1-year-olds right now.
First of
This
all,
guy over here.
let the record show that I think it's unnecessary for children of that age to have massive birthday parties with lots of things that they can't even partake in. Just saying.
Okay.
They just looking at stuff like, I wish I could do
opinion,
that.
unpopular opinion. I don't know. We'll have to.
So if he is throwing a party for one of his nephews, we know not to bring any of the 24 packs, not to bring any of the cool adult stuff. Just keep it.
Man, we having cake and we getting out of there.
And getting out of there.
Period.
That's right.
That's it.
Good to know. Good to know.
Absolutely.
Y'all heard it here first. That's
Party
easy.
people.
That's not me. I was at an event this weekend and I was doing my hype man thing. So I've been saying party people since Friday. You gotta forgive me.
Yeah, Q. Who were you hyping up? Was that Prodigal Son I saw on Instagram?
Yep.
What happened? What happened
Shouts
with
out
that?
to Prodigal. He had a show in Santa Ana. Was it Last Round Bar? I'm gonna say the name of the venue wrong. Pardon me. But it was a dope event. DJ Chaos, DJ Abel threw it together. Shabam Shadiq was there. A lot of other talented folks. And I got to get up there and do my thing in the back and act like a 20-year-old with my gray beard, you know what I'm saying? Bring that energy well needed to the party, So that was good. And I've been in party people mode ever since. I'm DJing right now. Don't get me started.
So live shows are definitely.
Got a little bit of lag there on Cheeky's side.
World.
What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying you're doing a lot of live shows now.
Live shows are definitely opening up. Like last weekend out here, there was like 4 or 5 events all going on at the same time, all scattered around.
I got asked to rock tomorrow.
Oh yeah, where you going to be?
Brooklyn. Shout out to homie Jam Young. He's doing a dope free show in hip hop. Check him out on Instagram. I don't know exactly where the venue is, but I might show up, might pull up, and I might spit some bars. Who knows?
Get it in, man. Get it in.
You already got the sick reverb on your microphone right now, so you're getting ready.
Party people.
Party people.
You got to hit him with the throw your hands in the air.
All right.
Well-
Q. So who do we got on today?
Yeah, man, we got a jam-packed episode, so let's get right into it. I don't know if our guest is with us in the wings just yet, but we are being joined by Paul Levinson today, folks. We got some tasty treats to serve up to y'all from some of our 3 Beats Later producers and crew, and we're going to get a chance to kick it with Mr. Levinson and talk about him and his career. He is an author, singer, songwriter, professor of communications and media studies. We're going to get all into it as soon as we get in here on the show.
So a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
Loaded.
Yeah, man.
How many?
And an all-around good guy.
And how many beats we got today?
Fellas?
We got some multiple entries, right?
Yeah, we got a
These are
few.
multiple entries.
I know a few of the guys were busy, so you know, I had to step up to the plate. Plus, you know, I have a past working relationship with Paul, and I just could not stop making beats based around his music. So I got a few. I heard there's a few more floating out there. I don't know.
So being that it's 3 beats later, you got to pick your best one.
Exactly. I don't know if I can, you know, I'm not trying to take the whole night. It's crazy.
No, you gotta not see. Wait, he about to deliberate with himself. He about to be like, yo, hold on, let me talk to yo. Which one do you think is the best one? Yeah, that's the question right there.
So
you know what?
Do you have a beat?
I have something. I have a thing over here. I have a thing.
Okay, and then Grim, right? Grim, you got one, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yo, let me see Q face right now. Let me see what Q is doing. Q, look at his face.
I'm
He's
trying to. No, seriously, I'm having technical issues over here. I'm getting a text message from my guest. I'm trying to make sure he can get into the right room.
Oh, okay, cool.
So you guys want to throw me in the link in the chat to make sure I'm sending him the right invitation link real quick and get him in here?
Yes, we'll do. Let me go pull it up.
I just got like a pink grapefruit little gin mixed with some lime seltzer.
Yeah, you sound like you just be giving up now, man. he be drinking and he just be like, I got this little grapefruit with some liquor in it. Like, you know what I mean? He don't even be appealing no more. Like when he was in New York,
tastes great.
When he was in New York, he was like, I got this drink. Like, yeah, that sounds good. Now he's like, this grapefruit thing.
You gonna try to make this a New York thing? What?
Oh wow!
What? He's dissing Jersey. Q. He's dissing Jersey.
I got nothing. Hey, get him. Handle that. We'll have none of this slander on here. You know how you gonna blame the coast on the drink, son? What you got over there?
Me, I'm drinking water. I'm drinking water off the Ivory Coast.
Water off the Ivory Coast.
I got something nice right here. Oh,
that twisted tea.
Mud water.
Atlas Brewing. That's DC based over here. It's good. If anybody is a beer drinker, check it out. It's disappearing beer. There it is. Bam.
I am ill prepared, and I can't put what I have on the screen. You already know. How are we looking over there? Anybody jumping in the room?
No.
What is going
on? Here we go. Here comes Paul. All right, I'll let him in. All right. Here we go.
Perfecto.
Here we go. Here comes Paul. All right, I'll let him in. All right. Here we go.
Perfecto. Yes. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Here we go. Here comes Paul. All right, I'll let him in.
Wasn't there like a song? Wasn't there a song back in the 1960s called
Yes. How you doing,
"Let
sir?
Me In"?
Here we go. Here comes Paul. All right, I'll let him in.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a song back in the 1960s?
Okay.
We got an echo. Somebody has their YouTube on, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see who's watching the YouTube. We're gonna have to do a quick.
Paul, were you watching this on YouTube before you joined?
Yeah. Should I get out of that?
Yeah. It's playing back in the audio.
I got you. I'll just get hold on.
Were you watching this on YouTube before?
Yeah.
Don't worry. Just do what we do and blame Q.
Okay.
It seems to work 9 times out of 10. You ever have a problem in your life, ladies and gentlemen? Just blame it on this guy right here.
Blame it on Q.
Yes. Well, Paul, thanks for joining. We're glad to have you here.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's an honor.
Yes. Super honor, man.
Paul, thanks for joining. We're Glad to have you here.
Yes.
All right, I'm still hearing that. I don't know if that's.
I know. I'm not even connected to
Super
YouTube
honor, man.
anymore, so I don't know why. it's doing that.
Yes.
Hold on just one more second. I have another idea. I know. I'm not even connected.
Might be a speaker's problem.
I have another idea. I know. No.
Let's try something.
Is that
Anybody out there? Oh man, I was gonna have fun with it. I was gonna do the Titanic thing. Can anybody hear us out there? Yeah,
There it is.
Oh man, I was gonna have fun with it. I was gonna do the Titanic.
I'm like, I hope that's not coming from.
I mean, this is kind of actually cool listening to the delay like a minute later. It's like hearing your
I'm like, I
future
hope that's not
ghost.
coming from.
But I don't know. Maybe
kinda-
I recommend maybe Paul logging out and then logging back in. Maybe that might work or something like. I don't know. Just trying to get a recommendation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I recommend maybe Paul logging out and then logging back in. Maybe that might work or something like.
Okay, I'll try that.
Just trying to get a
I'll do
recommendation.
that.
Okay,
That was
that was an interesting glitch.
It could be, yeah, that could be like maybe if his speakers like are projecting through his laptop, would definitely get a.
Yeah, that would definitely do it too. Laptop.
So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Well,
Well,
we'll see if we can log him on here in a minute. And worst case scenario, we'll jump
Wait,
into the music.
The delay went away though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
So
So
he
it does
jumped
have
off.
something to do with his.
probably his laptop or
So I'm drinking a refreshing grapefruit with the lemon splash twist. So I
As
have
we
to be
delay
excited about it to describe it to E.
yes.
the piece. So, how do you say that? I always get those letters wrong. AMS.
ASMR.
Now you got me twisted now.
We got the ALS. No, it's ASMR, man.
ACL. ACL.
NAACP.
I was gonna say, yeah.
All right, so check it out. So welcome back to 3 Beats Later, Your Q. Do a nice little intro for us, man.
Well, yeah, like we were saying, we were leading up into letting you guys know a little bit about Mr. Levinson and some of the works that he's done. I personally met him back when I was blogging for Blog Critics. He was one of the writers there as well, and I was impressed by him, of course, by his literary work and his educational work, but the fact that he started as a musician. And so early on, we connected. We started a correspondence back and forth, and I worked on a few like spec song remix cover songs of his to, you know, kind of get into the groove, and those came out amazingly well, and he liked them, and you know, our relationship kind of went from there. But as far as his personal work, man, this man covers a lot of ground. He's not one to sit still for long. You know, professor of communications and media studies over at Fordham University in New York. I got a lot of questions for him, so let's see if we can.
All right, he's here.
He's here. As you can see, I wasn't looking at the camera the whole time.
All right.
Yeah, man.
And
No
I
more
think that
echo.
the ghosts went away.
Yeah.
You know what I did, by the way, for future reference? I just shut down my whole computer.
Ah,
Oh,
And
wow.
I thought again. So that's the equivalent of pulling the plug. Right?
Pulling
Yeah.
the plug.
a hard
Reset.
reboot sometimes is necessary.
Hard reboot.
A reset. So yeah, like I said, we got a lot of beats and some stuff we want to show you, but we definitely wanted to talk to you here real briefly, and then show you some of our work, and then come back to get into the meat and potatoes of it all, if you will. But why don't you tell them a little bit more about your life, your music, and all that.
All right, so back in the late 1950s, there were two things that I really loved in the popular culture. One was music, and the other was science fiction. And I soon learned that if I really love something, you know, as a consumer, I almost always want to try doing it. You know, so it's a good thing I didn't love like nuclear physics. I probably would have blown up the world, you know, 4 years ago. But so by the time the 1960s came around, I was in a couple of folk rock groups, and we started going into studios. And but you know, we were somewhat at a disadvantage because I was an incredible cheapskate back then. And we didn't like paying for studio time. You know, it wasn't the way it is now when you can just record at home and you get the equipment.
Right.
So I used to talk to the people in the studio and say, hey, look, how about this deal? You give us a couple of hours of time and I'll give you 50% of whatever profit I make when a record company buys my record and puts it out.
Right.
So needless to say, they didn't make any money on that because we almost never sold anything to record companies. Anyway, finally, in the early 1970s, I got together with this guy, Ed Fox, and the name will be familiar to Larry. We wrote a whole bunch of songs together. And we went into a studio, and actually the studio was an interesting studio. It was A1 Studios. It was owned and it was run by Herb Abramson, who was one of the original founders of Atlantic Records.
Wow.
And this is like a story, out of a novel, but Herb was very embittered because although we helped found Atlantic Records, the Ertegun brothers, they were two Turkish guys. They forced him out of the company. So he sort of retreated into the studio. And it was in that studio that we began recording Twice Upon a Rhyme.
Wow.
And again, we didn't pay Herb any money. And we went to, a dozen other studios in the New York area, eventually had a whole album. And we did begin showing it to record companies and we did get some interest. But I'm also a very impatient dude. And, after 5 or 6 months went by, and, at this point, I'd had some of my songs had been produced by Ellie Greenwich. And so I had some, semi-hit records here and there. But I said to Ed, look, this is ridiculous. We're not getting any younger. That certainly was true. I guess I was about, 23, 24. And I said, why don't we just create our own record company and put out this album? That's how Twice Upon a Rhyme came out in 1972. And then for many years, the only human beings on the face of this earth who heard any of Twice Upon a Rhyme were my poor wife, Tina, and then our 2 kids. And, they are still very loyal, sweet kids. They loved it. Oh, Daddy, this is so wonderful. You come so good. Thanks very much. And meanwhile, I was writing a lot of science fiction. I became a professor because that also is basically, people think being a professor is hard work. It's just basically talking for a living.
Right.
There's some professors, they stay up all night preparing their lectures. That I never prepared a lecture in my life.
Do you still sing to your students?
Yes, I absolutely do. I have to do anything I can to keep them interested.
Right.
My only regret is I can't do harmony to myself, but sometimes I get a student, in the classroom
that can harmonize.
Yeah. And finally, around the year 2000, so now we're in more modern times, I hear about this magazine in Japan that has written a review of Twice Upon a Rhyme. And in the review, they say this is a lost cult classic. Well, the only thing that was true about that was it was lost for sure. Because again, no one had heard of it. But they began playing songs in Japan from the album. And one thing then began leading to another. I got a South Korean record company called me up, Beatball Music. They wanted to put out a CD. And that's what I was doing for about, 15, 16 years. Until in the summer of 2018, I get an email from someone who I didn't know at the time, Chris Hoisington, and he says to me, hey, I'm a big fan of your science fiction. I'm a big fan of Twice Upon a Rhyme. Have you written any songs which combine science fiction and music? Now, I'm the kind of person, I would have said yes in any case and just written up a bunch of songs. What am I going to say no?
Right.
But I had written a few songs. And so he said, well, hey, would you like to come up and do an album? And that's how Welcome Up, Songs of Space and Time was created. So that brings us pretty much into the present day.
Yeah. And that's a short brief synopsis of everything. We could talk into your news appearances, the numerous quotes from magazines and articles, your appearances, giving it to Bill O'Reilly. You know, there's so many things that we could talk about. But the one thing I will say briefly that back then always struck to me and stood out to me, and I remember now as you speaking, is the fact that this project that you initially came out with so many years ago, you know, found another life and continues to find another life. Of course, as you know, I'm telling the audience, I personally worked with another good friend of mine and singer and covered a few of Paul's songs. And at the time, I remember thinking, oh, I found this. This is my little private gem of 60s folk rock experimental sounds and nobody. And lo and behold, I'm like one in how many people have covered your songs? Like, throughout the years?
It's a great collection. So
yeah,
to John's voice, there's a guy, and I've never met any of these people in person, except for one I'll tell you about in a second. There's a guy in England, James Harris, who's like sort of, I was going to say he's like a young Paul McCartney, and I guess he is young compared to Paul McCartney, but the guy now is probably in his late 50s, early 60s, so he's not that young either. So he did a version of Looking for Sunsets. Actually, Donnie Frankel, very cool guy, he actually played keyboard on the original Twice Upon a Rhyme album.
Okay.
Then went out to California. For a while, he was singing with the Grassroots. They had a couple of hit records, In My Midnight Confessions, When I Tell the World That, sort of that sunshine pop rock. So he got together with Robbie Rist, he's like a crazy but sweet guy. He was in the Brady Bunch. He played Cousin Oliver. And,
I'm trying to remember Cousin Oliver. He's like
a little kid. He's also had something to do with the Sharknado movies. I'm not sure whether he was the shark or the tornado or what he was, but he had something to do with that too. Anyway, so they recorded some of my songs. And the only, so I did know Donnie. There's a woman, Catherine Asaro, a science fiction writer. She heard Looking for Sunset. She wanted to record it. So yeah, there were a whole bunch of people. But I have to say, the version that you and John Voice did is very dear to my heart because right around that time, our daughter got married. And you and John Voice took one of the other songs, The Soft of Your Eyes, which I actually wrote for Dina, my wife. And the two of you did a really great version of it. And we actually played it on loudspeaker at our wedding. It was really sweet. So,
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Nothing but good things.
Yeah. I'm glad to see us come around again. Like, here we are again, like getting ready to present you with some more recreations based off of your work, man. So that's very, very cool. I could talk and ask you a million questions, and I do have a few more questions for you, but I think the fellas are ready to get into some beats to show you what they work with here, show you how they've taken some of your music and gave it the 3 Beats Later treatment. Grim is over there looking like, yeah.
3 Beats Later treatment.
Yeah, this is exciting. Thanks so much, Paul, for coming on. This is awesome.
Thank you.
So definitely we're going to just go through some music really quick, and then we're going to come back. We have a bunch of questions for you, because when we, we're making all the music, we got a chance to kind of listen to more and more of your music. So definitely thank you, Q, also for introducing.
Yes. My pleasure.
I was unaware of all of this music and all of this content too. There's so much out here, because the blogging, the podcasts, everything that you're doing there's just so much of it. It's kind of like, what don't you do,
Right. Very prolific. I'm over here in the middle of the conscious, what is the name?
The Consciousness Plague.
The Consciousness Plague.
Yeah.
The Consciousness Plague. Phil Diamato in the house.
That's right. it's about an antibiotic that causes people to, in a way, this was written before COVID. The antibiotic causes people to lose their memories because it accidentally kills bacteria in the brain, which help us be conscious beings. So, kind of crazy
Wow.
idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah. So
Cool.
let's jump into it. I know we have some music. Usually what we do is we do a fun thing at the show, and we kind of completely randomize who gets to go first and share their creation. But I don't think we're gonna do that today. Does anyone want to step up and go first?
It doesn't matter. I'll go first.
All right, Grim. All right, here we go.
Mute up, fellas.
Okay, we're going to mute our mics here and take a look.
This one is going to be short. So here we go. All right, so that's my my beat this week. I give you a quick show of what song and how I used it. Here we go. All right, here we go. So this is the song I used for I'm Seeing Your.
I'm seeing you in a different light.
Yes.
That's right.
In a different light. Yep. Yes. Like when I heard that, it jumped out to me. I was like, oh gosh. I actually did like 4 beats, but this one really jumped out to me, the most, that piano.
I love it. Listen, I have something to tell you about that, though. There were 2 people who played recorders on that track. One is a guy by the name of Cyril Penn, who I think he went out to California, opened up a winery or something. The other, though, was a pretty famous recordist player. He played like classical, and he said, "Don't put my name on the album." He said, "I want to be anonymous."
Wow.
So I said, "Okay, if that's what you want. I would never be anonymous to anything I played."
Yeah.
So now
show yourself.
That's right.
Come out of the shadows. So that's my my version of that beat breakdown, my remix of it. Let me see. Quite sure you guys know. You guys got all the folders as well. So yeah, that's what I got. Keep it short and sweet. Drums.
No, but break it down. Yeah, break it down, because Grimace is being very modest. Grimace strikes fear in all of the hearts of the
Why?
Because those drums come in like bah, 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 bah. What are you talking about? Why? Like, come out the shadows. That's gonna be the new tagline right there.
Come out the shadows.
You got to break those drums down for us.
I got the drums from Illmind. Shout out to Illmind, Luke Kit, and I just took that. Just kept it basic. Didn't want to go too crazy with the drums, so I just did that basic boom, 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 back. Little corner pocket hit, and 808. behind it.
Jeez.
Something low.
Ooh.
Nothing's really mixed down, but just flat. But hi-hat, put a little swing on it, and what is this? I forgot what this is.
Something over in the start. Looks like.
Probably. But yeah. Shout out to Studio and Labs, you know, for the horns and strings. Some almost like a ghost sound behind the horns. So there you go.
Wow.
3 beats later.
Nice stuff, Grim.
I love it.
Appreciate it,
Nice.
guys.
That's cool.
So
Amazing.
who's
That could
next?
be like a soundtrack of a movie.
Yeah.
It has that feel to it.
I mean, the music, like I always want to do stuff like that. You know, I like big sounds. So movie sounds always have given me like a big sound option to add into some of my chops or layer in with some of my other samples just to bring it out a little bit more. Make it jump at you a little bit more. You can do more stuff when the sound is more wide. So that's how I look at it.
I think that could be a soundtrack to a movie called 2020. It's about these people who stuck in a house and had to face their own fears and realize who they really are.
We get out.
It's a thriller.
We finally get out. It's been 20 years.
Plot twist. There's a sequel.
Don't say that.
It's a short sequel. I'm sorry.
It's a sequel.
I'm sorry. Hey.
Wow. That was good. That was good. Okay.
Oh, man.
Q, you next,
guys,
right?
Let's keep it on. You know what? I'll jump in here.
Go on and jump,
quick.
man.
You know, like I was saying, this is I thought I was going to do an entire remake of Twice Upon a Rhyme at one point in my life, and who knows, it might still just happen, you know. All right, fellas.
So much good material.
Man, we're going to talk about Welcome Up in a minute, but hold on. I'm going to play you guys this. Cheeky helped me out with this. I kind of went crazy. I'll break down my process a little bit. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna stop it right there because I got really long-winded with these tracks. I don't know why. I just really got into the grooves. That goes for another minute or so. Kind of the same flips though. So it's pretty much the meat and potatoes of that one.
Beautiful.
So that's me and Cheeky trying to replay our version of Welcome Up, right?
Like
Cheeky,
it.
that's like
Yeah.
the basic.
Yeah,
Cool.
Q shared this song with me, and I listened to Welcome Up, which I believe was in the key of C, and then modulates a couple times. So it starts off and then it modulates and it modulates again. But I thought that Q was going to, find some areas to sample. So I wanted to keep it at least in the same key for that first part. And I just was grooving off of kind of like those chord changes that you had there, which are really, really cool. I heard like a lot of, dare I say, Beatles influence? I don't know if I could say that.
Absolutely. Everything I do is influenced by the Beatles.
Okay.
Yeah, they inhabit. I mean, there are other groups too, but
Yeah.
I just saw the McCartney 3-2-1.
I was just going to ask you if you watched that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just. I mean, look, McCartney doesn't have a voice anymore, but he still has a brain, and just to hear him talk about this stuff, I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. I heard a lot of those really, really cool kind of like sonic things that you were doing in Welcome Up, and I wanted to just create a couple of weird guitar lines that had an ambient vibe to it, and Q flipped it from there.
I love it. It's really beautiful. By the way, to give credit where credit is due, I originally wrote that song without those key changes. That was Chris Hoisington, the producer. He just like wanted it to keep going up, up, higher, higher, higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Once the second modulation came in, I was like, whoa, we're up again. All right, here we go. So.
Well, I do have another track, but I'm gonna jump off the stage and give it to my man E real quick and keep this party rolling.
Don't try.
I mean, you can take my space because
Don't
unfortunately,
be stage diving in here, okay? We're not. All right, don't
Stage
jump off
diving, bro.
stairs, okay?
unfortunately, I don't have a record this week, so I mean, Q could take my.
That's cool.
my
No, we
spot.
got to get to the interview session.
Yeah.
We got to get the interview session. I'm gonna play mine. This week I did something. So I did a thing. Whenever I say I did a thing, whenever I say I did a thing,
something's
you never
going
know what
on.
to expect. So I did a thing this week. Yeah, I'm gonna play that thing. And so what's gonna happen is
I'm gonna mute up.
Eyes. Yeah, you're gonna see some eyes. So I'm gonna play this thing, and then I'll explain it later. So everyone hit your mute buttons and
I never thought that I would see the day that all of my love would up and go away. But you came along and you made my dark skies blue. It's true. And you gave me love like no one else could do. It's true. Thank God for you. Thank God for you. Thank God for you. Thank God for you. And I was pretty sure it was the end of the line. Things in my life never turn out fine. You see, but I said that I wanted you to take over now. And you made a way out of no way for me somehow. It's true, thank God for you.
up there. But I had a lot of fun with this because, first off, I love how the songs that you make, Paul, you can tell that these songs have specific meanings to you. And you're not writing songs to say, okay, this is what people want me to sing about. This is what I feel like I want to talk about. Like the Llama song. And I'm like, this is dope. This is super, super dope. And when I heard this song, I didn't have to hear anything but the beginning of it to know what I was going to use. Because as soon as I heard those chords in the beginning, I said, wait, this makes me feel like one of those songs that could be a guy singing about like being saved. Possibly like a church song, but it's not a church song, it's not a gospel song. He's just singing about having his life saved by somebody who stepped in and intervened on his behalf. And it instantly put me in that mindset. And the first thing that came to my head was the thank God for you part. And I just wanted to just talk, sing it, just because I don't sing. I wanted to talk, sing it, and kind of like just give it that real sad, melancholy, I was almost really about to lose it kind of energy. And that's really what I did. So I want to play, I took this from Stern to Learn, I think it's called, the Stern to Learn is a song that I used. So I'm going to play what I sampled of that song. And it's just that guitar part. So that right there is what I took from that part. And that from that point on, I had intentions of going back and grabbing so much more stuff. And I realized that the more I left out, the more I could put in. And so I was able to just kind of like add that in there. So that's what I did this week. It's a thing that I did. And yeah, I'm going to open up to everybody. And yeah, it's like that.
It was wonderful. And by the way, you sound so good on it. Even talking, it sounds like you're singing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I could hear the melody in the words.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank God for you, man. I mean,
thank God for you.
You that was for one, you know, I think you took Paul's, you know, music and you flipped it like 3 beats later style, like you did a chop. You started with a chop, which is very hip hop of you, but then it converted into something else. When you added the melody and the vocals, a very, as you said, a melancholy track. I like that vibe as well. Mm-hmm. And I also really like the 2 layers of drums you did. What would you use for that second drum set on the hook?
Right here. It's right here.
When the
yeah,
right
would you do? How'd you get those drums
Big
in there?
Shout out to Cymatics, okay?
Yeah.
Cymatics. You know, you really built the kind of like I don't know, tension, or like I really wanted to like hear every time those drums came in, it was like awesome. You know what I mean? And like the hook that you put behind it was great. But then when you drop the drums out, it was really cool because you kind of built that up there. And forever, I want to hear you talk sing from now on. So, you know, you guys are unfortunately have to hear me try to sing, but let's hear you talk sing, because that's
that'll probably be the last time that I do it.
No.
Thank God for you guys because you.
Hey, we will put the pressure on you.
But
we need 10 stems with Emery singing like that.
Absolutely not. But thank you so much, Paul, for the music you created.
Yes, man.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Inspiration was high.
So just so you're aware, Paul, you're not getting off that easy. Q and Cheeky have like a list of questions for you. So I'm gonna.
I gotta ask one question. I'm sorry. I know I'm messing up the format.
No. Go right ahead.
I'm interjecting.
We're coasting now. You know.
I got a very hyper specific question for you, and I just think that it's a good opportunity to ask it. You are a science fiction writer in addition to being a musician. Right. I happen to work in the comic book and graphic novel field as well as make music, and I'm actually putting out a graphic novel later this year. It's got science fiction, fantasy elements. It's actually an anthology. And I plan on releasing a piece of music along with it. And it's kind of like breaking, new ground. Well, not necessarily new ground, because other artists such as yourself have done combinations. But I guess what piece of advice or recommendation might you have for someone who is trying to cross pollinate both of these different realms?
Okay, first of all, just to set the foundation, we live in a world in which, unfortunately, people who, in my view, don't have as much talent as the world as they might think, have set up this ideal that you're just supposed to focus on one thing. And somehow, if you do like a combination of things and you try to cross pollinate, you're either out of your mind or you don't know what you're doing. And apropos of science fiction, I think it was Robert Heinlein who said, if you want to talk about specialization like that, become an insect, because basically an insect can just do one thing. We're human beings; we can do all kinds of things. So the general context is you should ignore those feelings that somehow you're doing something that's illicit or can't be done. I think, in fact, the natural thing is that these various forms of creation naturally flow into each other. And it's only because we're sort of brought up to think you're either a musician or a writer or a professor or this or that, that you just have to stick to that. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is the sort of bridge between science fiction and music, if you think about it, is the lyric, right? Because science fiction is all words. Music is, music, but there are also lyrics which are words. And that's just a good way to sort of think about the two working together and inspiring each other. But the final thing I would say is, I also think, and as much as I've done in my life, even I think, have wasted a lot of time. Everybody wastes a lot of time. And one of the ways in which we waste time is we constantly think about, should we do this or do that? My recommendation is do it. Do this or that. Don't think about, should you do this or that? The worst that'll happen is you might not do the best thing, but so what? You'll do the best thing the next time around, either on that project or something else.
And
Wow.
Paul, have you done anything where you wrote a piece of fiction and then also music to kind of accompany it?
Well, in this sense, one of the songs on Welcome Up is a song called "If I Travel to the Past." If I travel to the past to change your mind. And one of the things that I increasingly am writing are any kind of like time travel stories, because to me there's something just so profoundly, on the one hand, paradoxical. How can you go into the past and change something? If you change that, why would you go into the past and change it in the first place? And they're like endless possibilities. And so what happened there is, before I wrote that lyric, I was beginning to sort of fool around with a time travel story, just sort of a romantic time travel story.
Right.
But as I even just began writing a couple words, I said, no, this is a song. Because in terms of the feeling I had, it would have been too drawn out to even write a short story. I just wanted the intensity of a lyric, not say that many words. And actually, I co-wrote that song with a guy whose name is John Anelio. And so I wrote the lyrics, and he already said, hey, if you have some lyrics, send them to me. And I sent them to him, and like literally the next morning, he came back with that song. So that's like the closest I've come to, I'm writing a story and it just sort of veers into a lyric in a song.
Yeah. And that's, I bring that up because that's kind of P's world. I didn't know, P, if you wanted to talk about a little bit about some of your previous projects and what's coming around the corner. If you could give us that exclusive.
I don't think this is the right time to talk about those things. I think this is Paul's interview time. But on a later episode, we will definitely get into the weeds with what I have coming out. But thank you, Paul, for that advice. some people say, jack of all trades, master of none. And I never really subscribed to that school of thought. And there's always people who are proving that wrong. So basically what you just said is extremely relevant to who I try to be and what I try to accomplish. So thank you for those words. Passing it to Q and Cheeky, because I know you guys got some questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it going though in that vein. Paul, have you how about comic books? Have you dabbled in that avenue at all in terms of science fiction?
Yeah, I haven't. I the only reason I haven't is I just haven't thought of doing something like that. Although let me just say this. One area in which I don't think I have that much talent, I mean, I have a little bit of talent, but not in abundance, is the visual aspect of comic books. So were I to write a comic book, I would have to be working with somebody who had, that talent, who had like this, fantastical eye, and I could certainly put together a story. Look, the truth of the matter is, back in the 1950s, when I said I discovered science fiction and rock and roll music, the first science fiction I discovered were comic books, Superman,
Right.
Stuff like that. And so I think, and when I was president of the Science Fiction Writers of America, it's really, it still is a very stodgy organization. One of the things I tried to do is get comic book writers into the organization as members of the Science Fiction Writers of America. And you wouldn't believe the battle I had with people. No,
wow.
that's real writing, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
is it still like that right now, or have they kind of opened up their arms a little bit?
They've opened up their arms a little bit, but in my view, not enough.
Yeah.
For example, there's no place at this point for, they sort of give a wink and a nod to science fiction poetry, and even less to science fiction songlyrics. So eventually they'll see the light.
Wow.
Which is strange too, because just thinking about that real briefly, in hip hop, that's a lane that's, well, not even just hip hop. There's a lot of genres of music. I can think of like some of the 70s rock stuff would be very, fantasy, based. Some I'm thinking like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, ELO type of stuff. But in hip hop, there's guys like Deltron 30. I'm drawing blanks, but kind of something like a Run the Jewels. They could go into that vein in certain areas. Some of the older Company Flow stuff, very heavily science fiction related, or just interesting side note. I hadn't really thought about that.
Even if you sprinkle in like Outkast and stuff like that.
Outkast, the way they come up with us. I got a lot of just random questions. I want to throw this one at you real quick, just as we're talking about this. You consider yourself a futurist?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, first of all, there's not that much difference between being a futurist and a historian. Because if you're interested in history, that means you're interested in the flow of events and how we've come to be, and that quite naturally points to the future. Right. And so I remember, so now, going back to like my more scholarly work, my doctoral dissertation, Human Replay, A Theory of the Evolution of Media. So this was written like in, the mid-1970s. I said back then, I predicted there will come a time when we're each going to have a little device that we carry. And with that device, we'll be able to reach anyone in the world. We'll be able to reach any library in the world. We'll be able to get into that device any music, any movie, any television show. And that, of course, was like 40 years before,
And saying that back then, labeled, the moment you say that in public, I think you're a tin hat kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, people who've read my quote serious unquote work, they think they're insulting me, and they say, what is this? You're writing media theory. You say, but you're basically just writing science fiction. And I say to them, well, thank you.
Right.
Well, everything in this technology is based off of science fiction. So that's the whole purpose of it. Come up with an idea and then you try to implement it based off of science fiction.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Man, hopefully we can bring you back on here as I'm looking over at the clock. I still got a few more questions I'm going to throw in here real quick, but I just want to put that out there officially because I still got songs to present, and maybe we'll do some stuff back behind the scenes and all of that, you know. But one of my random questions that I had for you, hold on. If I,
well, I got a question while you look for that. I
okay,
have
go
how
ahead, man.
Paul, how heavy are you into like sound design, science fiction sound design and stuff like that?
That's a good question. Not that much. You know, I think it's a
Okay.
fabulous field, and I enjoy hearing that. But I haven't really done much of that at all. Part of it is I think uh, for me, words. Even though I love words and music as science fiction, words are such an intimate part of the science fiction process that's what I like focusing on.
Yeah.
But I think soundscapes, those kinds of designs are wonderful and beautiful and magical. And the people who do that for movies and television shows, they deserve a lot of the credit for the success of the show because music, as you know, affects your soul in a way
Yes.
that what you see does not affect you.
Yes.
Because sound makes your ears, makes literally your eardrums vibrate,
Yeah.
and it goes into your brain in a way that sight does not.
Kind of throwing out there, just from it's kind of like a twofer question here. The first part is you told us that you're heavily influenced by the Beatles. That's great. Amazing artists, of course, legendary. Can you tell us just a couple more of your influences? And then is there anyone that you're listening to now that inspires you in terms of music?
Good question. Well, I'll give you just one of many examples. Sam Cooke, who had all kinds of great records, had a song that I don't think people pay enough attention. It's called "Having a Party," and apropos of sampling, he's basically having a party. I say, Mr. DJ, can you play this song? Can you play that song? And so years ago, I basically took the three titles of the song in the song that Sam Cooke mentions, the Soul Twist, whatever the other two are, and I just wrote them down. And I said, I'm going to write a story and tie these songs together. And about 10 years ago, I finally wrote a story called Sam's Request, which takes place in the distant future. And there's like an intergalactic war, and some telepath is like hearing these words of Sam Cooke, and that gives her a way of figuring out how to get the better of the enemy. So I've always loved Sam Cooke's work. I'm basically omnivorous when it comes to music. As I was driving home from going for a quick swim this afternoon, I was listening to the Beatles channel, and they played the Supremes doing Come Together. Could you imagine that? I mean, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Here Come Old Flat Top.
Yeah.
And it just got me thinking about how great the Supremes were in their own way. But in terms of what I listen to, and apropos of what I've just said, it's the Beatles about 90%. I listen to the Beatles channel on Sirius XM radio. I never get tired of listening to them.
Yeah.
I hear things all the time in there, but then beyond that, it's everything. By the way,
Can I ask you what's your favorite Beatles album and your favorite Beatles song?
well, so that's a great question. There were three albums, Rubber Soul, Revolver, and Sgt. Pepper, that in my life I've always sort of vied for being in first place. One of the things I discovered just a few years ago was that the British version of Revolver had Rain and what was the flip side of Rain? Paperback Writer. It was actually part of the album. We didn't hear that in the United States because Capitol Records decided to put those out just as singles, and they were not on the album. So that was a revelation to me, and it almost moved Revolver into first place. But after all is said and done, it would have to be Rubber Soul.
Wow.
Why?
Revolver is my
When I'm
Oh,
beside you.
I love all three of those albums too. I mean, Rubber Soul is probably, I'm sorry, Revolver is probably my second favorite Beatles album. I love Abbey Road, and I know it's kind of like cliche to love Abbey Road. Actually, I think it's more cliche to like Sergeant Pepper because everyone says that's their best one. But
it is.
Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, one of these days we're gonna have a Beatles battle, but
Well, okay. Yeah.
a Revolver is right there. Now that you said the British version had those two songs on it, it does kind of change my perception of it as an album. So that's awesome.
Oh, and that's right. It also, I'm not sure, I can't recall whether the American version has it or not, but Anya Bird Can Sing, Dr. Robert, are they on the American version? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. Yeah, those are.
I mean, those are great songs.
They're great.
Look, Sergeant Pepper is fabulous, but to me, it's the reason why it never stays in first place too long. It is because it's a tiny bit too contrived. I can sort of hear a little bit too much the thinking that went into doing that, and that gets in the way of my being like just like swept away by the emotion.
I see. Okay, interesting.
But look, and Pet Sounds is the Beach Boys is a great
right. That I just really listened to that album a lot too, just because a lot of people say that if you're into the Beatles, you should listen to Pet Sounds, and that album is great. I really like listening to those albums on one channel at a time too, just because of the way they were recorded. So like listening to songs like Eleanor Rigsby or like Strawberry Fields on just one channel. And then listening to the other channel, you just hear those instruments isolated. It's a really unique experience.
Yeah, it's dope. Especially if you get the vinyl. I got that with Jethro Tull. Listening to one of his albums, like the effects on both sides, how they separate everything. So yeah,
I love that.
That's definitely dope.
I love that.
Well, this all answered one of my questions. I was going to say, if you're going to listen to one album for the rest of your life, what would it be? And there it is.
We're five music makers here on this stream, and that's what we do every week is we invite guests on and we kind of flip we basically turn some of their music into new music and kind of reimagine it sometimes or cover it and stuff like that. So we kind of have like our own unique path in the music industry, but you have so much, so much more experience, I would say. And I guess, do you have any just general advice for music makers today? Seeing that you have, you have many years in the music industry.
I think that there are a million good reasons not to create, whether it's music or, writing novels or whatever. A million good reasons. You have an appointment, with a friend. You have someone you'd really love to see. You have a birthday in your larger family. Someone is in from out of town, all those things. And so people always ask me this question, what would you suggest to somebody who wants to create even more? And my answer, and it's a somewhat, some people find it a very infuriating answer, is you have to learn as much as possible to be antisocial, to say no to these very good social invitations that are good for you to do. There's no doubt about it, but that does not create what you want to create. And in the end, you just have to be ruthless about making sure that you have the time to express what you want to express. And as basically one of the reasons I like the lockdown, I mean, obviously I don't like it for most other reasons.
Silver lining.
Yeah, I can sort of teach. I teach. So I'm still teaching classes online. That's great because like 10 seconds before I go into the Zoom and teach the class, I can be working away on something. That's better than having to rush in and teach a class in person.
Right, E? Right, E? Is he?
100%, man.
He came through with a classic at the last minute tonight. Like, wow.
I think
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought you were talking about our friend right there when you said that.
Oh, I agree with you completely, Paul, because I feel like a lot of people were complaining about the things they wish they could do if they had more time.
Mhm.
And then more time was given, and now this is a test of how much you really meant that, or was it just an
Yep.
excuse not to do it?
Yep.
So I agree 100%.
So that's
one other thing. I'm currently writing a new Phil D'Amato novel apropos of the consciousness plague, and one of the things that I always put in my novel, my characters are always listening to music, so it gives me a chance to like spin off various things. Sometimes hardly anybody knows them. Sometimes everybody knows them, and you know, in the Silk Code, there's a whole section in which I talk about Neanderthals playing flutes. Because there was actually some kind of bone that was discovered. This is actually true archaeology, where there were holes in the bone. And yeah, they could have been made randomly, but there's some archaeologists who think that if you pick up that bone and you actually can blow into it and play it, it's sort of a primitive flute, which suggests that
Wow.
those actually have music, which is wild.
That is dope.
So are you suggesting that as you write this novel, you're gonna incorporate 3 Beats Later as some of the music that the character listens to?
I didn't want to say anything, but I heard that too.
No, absolutely. Everything is material. That's what they do. I'm a material machine. I'm basically constantly consuming material, and you never know what's going to come up. You know,
and vice versa, because this is 3 Beats Later, and we like to sample, you know, a lot. So hopefully we'll be bringing you some more, you know, surprises in the near future. You know,
be a producer that has the ancient bone flute making beats.
DJ Bone Flute.
Yes, just
you
one
know,
of a kind sound.
I was going to ask Paul, is there anything that you, and you kind of answered that a little bit, but is there anything that you are working on right now that you'd like to promote a little bit, or even where should our, you know, fans and the people who watch this show go to listen to your music and to read your science fiction and to read your blogs and all that stuff? I have a couple links up right now.
Yeah, well, those links are great. All of my music is on Spotify, so you can see my beaming picture over there against that wall. And that's what I look like on Spotify. And so you'll find everything from Twice Upon a Rhyme to Welcome Up Twice. This you'll see pictures on the phone apropos of the pandemic. I just wrote that, you know, last December in a day or two.
Wow.
And basically, I was just like in a crazy mood. I wrote it, and I just like basically put together a track. I didn't even do any harmony, just threw on a vocal, and then I decided, so what should I do with this? So I just, you know, put it out there myself. But the song is very pandemic oriented because it's about someone. All he has now are pictures on the phone. That's his life. You know, he can't see real people, and you know. The pros, mainly cons of that. So that's one thing. I'm working on a whole bunch of new songs, but I have a policy until the song is finished and out there, I don't want to even mention the title of it because I think it's such a good title. I don't want someone out there to say, hey, I'll do it myself. So, but rest assured, I have about 5 or 6 songs I'm currently working on. The people at Old Bear Records say they want to do another album with me. They're very happy with how Welcome Up did. So that's going to happen in the future. This new Phil D'Amato novel, I started that about 10 years ago, worked on it once every couple of years. A few months ago, I got back to it, and that should be finished in about a year. This is my television review blog. Paul Levinson's Infinite Regress. But you guys would appreciate this. I watch a lot of television anyway. My wife and I love television. I started the blog because at the bottom of just about every review and on the sides of the review, you'll see that there are pictures of my books, links to my songs, and that's a great way of promoting, you know, the other things that you do.
Mhm.
So if you go just scroll a little bit further down, it says Blood Red Sky. There's the Silk Code. So you click on that link. That's how you can find my books. By the way, Amazon has right there it is, and if you click on Paul Levinson, you'll find there you go. Visit Paul's page. You'll find every book I ever wrote. Some of these I didn't write some of these books in their entirety. This Time Travel SF, that's an anthology of time travel stories and has one of my stories in it. That's something that I'm doing a lot of. And, I also write, more serious stuff. And I often say, to people, Donald Trump is the professor's best friend because every day he opens his mouth, even no longer president, the guy gives me great materials to talk about my thing. And so I'm busy now teaching a couple of courses. I'll be teaching some more in the fall. This course, Digital Media and Public Responsibility, basically Trump wrote the whole syllabus. He fake news, he endangers human lives with his
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm actually enjoying that. The other thing
Marilyn
is,
and Monet, I want to check that out as well.
Oh, yeah, that basically, I was writing down, just gives you an idea. I was just driving down one day to Fordham University, and I'll tell you the beginning of the story. It's not giving anything away. It starts out on the set of The Misfits, which is like the last movie that Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe starred in, made in the early 60s. And Marilyn is walking off the set of The Misfits with Montgomery Clift, and she begins to hear a song. Goodbye, Norma Jean. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So that's very interesting. It struck me. How could Marilyn Monroe in the early 90s
Hear
hear
that song, right?
No, Elton John and Bernie Taupin wrote it about 15, 20 years later.
Right.
And so that's what led to, this is like
Wow. I like the thought process. It's like, you're like a DJ. You're like a DJ. Like, I'm going to take, Elton John made a song, Goodbye Norma Jean, talking about, what if she actually heard it? I love that.
And these are great.
Dope.
These are all
That's
great
dope.
titles too. Cyber War and Peace. And
Right.
Now that's not science fiction. That's one of my more serious books.
okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
And
I did see-
Ions, Ions, and Eons.
Oh yeah, that basically, that's a collection of 3 stories. Ians, Ions, and Ians. This is like basically a little shop in Riverdale, New York, not that far from where I live. And it's up a flight of stairs, and it turns out it's like a time travel agency. And it's run by a guy by the name of Ian. And he calls his shop Ian's, Ions, and Ians because his name is Ian. And ions, are electrical, ions, like going back centuries.
That's dope.
So yes, I hope, and all kinds of crazy characters. That's Orson Welles up front there. You'll see
Oh, wow.
on top there, that's actually a picture of George H.W. Bush. I'll give you a hint. In one of the stories, somebody goes in and books a time travel trip at this agency, and this was written before Trump. I might write another story about him, but in this story written about 10 years ago, the guy goes back in time, and his plan is to get the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in the year 2000 so sick that he cannot be part of the decision in Gore v. Bush. So he's hoping in that way to have Al Gore win the election, not George W. Bush.
Wow.
And basically some right-wing people read this, went ballistic, sent me a whole bunch of email. I said, it's good for you, read it.
Hilarious. How many books have you written so far?
Books that I've totally written, I would say about 40. And that includes novels and collections of essays. Books that I have articles in or essays in, you can add about another 50 to that. But
Wow.
Isaac Asimov still holds the record. This guy, 500 plus
Ooh,
books wrote or edited.
a
Man,
lot
I
of
know
ideas.
we're running out of time, but I could do a whole hour on certain things. First of all, tell that scary guy from the Man in the Castle when you see him tomorrow that he's got to chill out.
Yeah.
He's got to chill out. Like he's too intense with it, and he knows he's wrong. He knows he's wrong. Like just tell him that Q said, "Bro, you got to chill out, man. You're scaring the black audience. Like we love the show, but you are frightening. Like if I would see him, I know he's an actor, but in real life, I think I would be terrified."
Well, I'll give you a little hint. I don't want to give away the ending in case anybody hasn't seen it. But if you see the last season and a half, it's building up to like a change in character. And then that person does something really horrible. Won't say what it is. And basically, Rufus Sewell was not happy with that, but he's only an actor.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'll give him your best regards.
Yes, give him my love. I mean, that's one of my favorite shows, And honestly, I was just telling that to Chris. I'm like, I've been following you for a while, but I forget, how anytime, I forget how, prolific you are. I go back to your blogs, and there's another, I think it's Vocal or something like that. I think it's like a composite of some of your writings, but more on the reviews. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's my watch list right there. I love Debris. We could talk forever, guys. Me and Paul about to start a whole little side conversation. It's my TV,
Well, listen. What I love about Vocal, they have a policy where they want people to send in original work, and they want it to be a certain format. And the head of the organization a few years ago contacted me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to write. Can you send your stuff in?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm publishing it first on my blog. I'm not going to write something exclusively."
Right.
Even though So I said, "Oh, okay, fine. We'll publish whatever you send me."
Right.
Wow.
I'll have like a special deal with them, and
That's good. That's really good.
That's what's up. Well, listen, I'm gonna have to mute myself because I'll keep going. I have one more question to ask, and I'm gonna turn it back to Cheeky. Not even a question, just more of a give my love to Hawaiian Herb. I don't know if you've seen Hawaiian Herb, but I want to give my love to
Hawaiian Herb. Hawaiian Herb. Let me say, he's no longer with us.
Oh no!
Remember I mentioned Herb Abramson?
Oh, that's
Herb Abramson would wear these like the worst Hawaiian shirts. If you had to say,
wow,
like met like a genie, and your wish was give me like the worst, ugliest ass shirt, I was gonna have Hawaiian shirt. This is what this guy wore, and like Ed and I were going into the studio trying to do some and he's walking around here with this Hawaiian shirt. So I couldn't take it anymore. And so when I was doing that little riff at the beginning, I just sort of yes.
And it's been living in my head since I heard the album so many years back. So yes.
Good old Hawaiian Herb.
Yeah.
The other thing about Hawaiian Herb, you would like this in terms of sampling. Hawaiian Herb. Mm-hmm. There was a show called Hawaiian Eye that was like on ABC TV in the late 50s, early 60s. Hawaiian Eye.
Oh.
I sort of borrowed that little snippet of melody.
Oh. See, these guys think sampling is something that started not too long ago. It's been sampling forever. We just had to use our mind and sample. We didn't have machines. Well, hey man, how we looking, Shiki? Are we good? That's about it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Paul, I want to thank you again for jumping in and spending the day with us and spending an hour and almost an hour and a half with us. This was great. You really had some gems that you were dropping on us here, some really good advice. And it was great kind of looking through all your music and learning more about your experience. So, here at 3 Beats Later, you're always welcome back if you just want to talk about your next project. Once you're ready to reveal the new title, we'll definitely have you jump back in and, talk about it, and we could flip more of your music and make some new creations from it as well.
Yeah.
Great. I love this. This was fabulous. You guys are wonderful. It's been a real pleasure. You know this, that there's nothing as rewarding as you create something and then some other person does something.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like magical.
Have you had a lot of experience with anybody sampling your music at all that you know of, or?
No, I mean the closest has been Laren, and
Yeah,
and he wasn't really sampling; he was just doing different versions of it.
right.
But no, this is the first I've heard of it, and it's really amazing.
Awesome. Great. All right. Well, so one thing we're going to do, but right before we jump off, is we're going to let everybody know who our next guest is. So I'm going to kick it back to Q if you want to kind of just.
Yeah, I've
people
kind
know.
of been taking over the guesting thing. These guys have been gracious enough to let me get some of my favorite friends and musicians on. So next week we have Mark the Clive-Lowe joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
This is going to be another fun episode. Paul, if you're up late night, you might want to check us next week. But again, all of our episodes will be on YouTube, so you know. But Mark has a lot of amazing projects out as well. Another prolific musician, just put out his own NFT series recently. In addition to that Politic album that's sitting right there, as Cheeky is scrolling up, that was one that came my way through Blog Critics. Again, shout out to Blog Critics, shout out to Eric Olson, because I'm still, everybody used to say back in the days, oh, you don't get paid to blog. I'm still reaping the benefits and connections I made off of that blog site. You, Mr. Levinson, and our next guest as well. You know,
that was a great site. I mean, it's not
wasn't it?
Anymore, right? It sort of disappeared a few years ago, but
Yeah,
they were great.
yeah. So shouts out to all the writers that have got amazing, and what they used to call it, superior cabal of writers or something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, tune in next week, guys. We'll be talking to Mark the Clive-Lowe and chopping up some samples.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And also remember to go onto YouTube, type in 3 Beats Later, and make sure you go and you hit the like and subscribe button. All you got to do is hit like and subscribe, and you'll see all of our past shows. And definitely tell your friends, tell any music maker you know, producers you know, to tune in.
Tune into the fire.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks again, Paul.
Thanks. Peace.
Thank you,
Great.
guys. You guys have a great night.
See ya.
Peace, everybody.